Mount Okepamo, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia. From education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Anthony the Plus, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is our program, the Hour of Politics, and I'm Anthony hosting. In today's edition of Hour of Politics, we have a special guest. We have the Senior Communication Advisor to Speaker Rachel Koon. He is our guest, and we have a number of issues and questions to throw at him so that he can provide clarification with necessary, explanation where necessary, so as for us to hear from the office of the Speaker. Again, he is the Senior Communication Advisor to Speaker Rachel Koon. He is no one else but V. Vesely Small II. Mr. Small, thanks for accepting our invitation on a very short notice, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Anthony. It's a pleasure, and thanks for having me.
All right. It is good to have you. And folks following us, we want you to share the broadcast with somebody in your contact. And Mr. Small, you are in the role. You got this position very recently. We want to say congratulations. You are a media colleague, and we are in this business. And for you to be playing the role, we just want to say congratulations in your new role, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And to our audience, we will be talking about the recent ECOWAS delegation and Speaker Koon's office. And we will be talking about the Supreme Court Bill of Information. That is why we will be talking about also. Then let me get something corrected here. All right. So yeah, we'll be talking about Supreme Court Bill of Information. A Bill of Information was filed by Speaker J. Fonati Kofa, seeking clarification, interpretation of the Supreme Court ruling in what we all know to be a battle between Speaker Kofa and now Speaker Koon. And also, we want to talk about the future of the House of Representatives on Speaker Koon. Allegations against Speaker Koon, one of which is that he's building homes, and few others. If we have the time, we want to know the speakers now, talking about Speaker Koon legislative agenda, and how will the speaker be different from his predecessor. There is no one as well suited to answer our questions concerning issues against Speaker Richard Koon than his senior communication advisor in person of V. Vesely Small the second. Again, brother, we cannot welcome you enough. Let's get to it in no time. The ECOWAS delegation is in Liberia for the second time. This time, we are hearing that there has been a little more of a commotion. Reading the papers here, we heard that the delegation went at the capital to meet with the Foreign Affairs Committee, and they didn't have any appointment with the speaker. But when they got at the capital, they went straight to the office of the speaker. And the speaker did not like that he was not giving prior notice that they would have reached him in his office. And they wanted him to come and welcome them. And the speaker did not like that. So what is the truth concerning what is being reported in the papers? Is it true that this has happened?
The information just provided is partially correct.
Okay.
And I'll just try to correct those ones that are incorrect. So, yes, the parliament, the delegation from the ECOWAS is currently in Liberia. They used diplomatic channels to communicate they are coming to Liberia. They wrote through the ECOWAS Commission here in Liberia, and then the ECOWAS Commission wrote the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then the Ministry of Foreign Affairs wrote the House of Representatives, informing them about the decision of the ECOWAS delegation to come to the capital to meet with the House of Representatives. So the chair of the House's Foreign Affairs Committee, Representative Neke Gay, met or had some conversations with the folks at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs early yesterday morning. And the committee in the afternoon. 55, and then Representative Gay and committee members were seated in the speaker's conference room awaiting the committee. Awaiting the ECOWAS delegation. But then protocol escorted the ECOWAS delegation to the speaker's office rather than the speaker's conference room. So there was just some small mix-up there. Protocol probably heard the speaker's conference room, and maybe mistook it to be speaker's office. So the speaker is sitting in his office, and here comes the ECOWAS delegation. So he could not say, "Oh no, you should not be here." Okay, so what he did, he welcomed them, he sat down, and then he simply placed a text message to the chair of the House's Committee on Foreign Affairs to come for his guests. And so Representative Gay and a few other committee members arrived in the speaker's office, received their guests, and took them to the speaker's conference room where the meeting with the delegation was held. That's exactly what happened.
So just for clarity, at no time did the speaker refuse or did he hesitate to welcome the ECOWAS delegation in his office, as been reported by Daily Observer?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, he came to his office, though unexpected. He welcomed them. They exchanged pleasantries. And they were sharing some chit-chats until Representative Gay and a few committee members walked in and then received them and took them to the conference room where a brief meeting with the committee was held before they left. So there was no point in time where they and the speaker had any commotion where there were words exchanged, where the speaker felt unhappy about anything. That was never the case.
So you are saying the speaker was not unhappy that protocol was not followed. Instead of the delegation being taken to the speaker's conference room, they were ushered into his office without his notice. He did not express any dissatisfaction or unhappiness concerning that.
Well, that dissatisfaction that he may have carried as a result of that action was not expressed to the ECOWAS delegation. He would never have taken that up on the ECOWAS delegation. It wasn't their fault. So he simply just accepted them, welcomed them, and waited for the right people to come and take them. So he did not show any form of anger towards the delegation for missing their route. It was protocol who did that, and I'm sure subsequently he may have spoken with the protocol folks regarding that. But he took no issue up with the ECOWAS delegation that came to his office on yesterday.
Our information, Mr. Small, is also that there was another meeting held at one of the hotels in Liberia, and that the speaker had made a representation. What is the fact concerning that, and do you care to comment what was the intent of any such discussion?
Another meeting with who?
With the speaker, and also a representation from the minority bloc, the two blocs.
With the ECOWAS Parliament?
Yes, the ECOWAS Parliament. Is that information anything
So that
near
information,
to your knowledge?
that information is untrue. What
Okay.
I do know is that the delegation had a dinner meeting with members of the Rule of Law Caucus, as the term
Okay.
themselves, at a local hotel in Monrovia. There was no representation from the Speaker's office. And just to provide additional information as we speak, just now, like I told you, I had to leave the meeting to come and have this conversation with you. So as we speak,
Right.
as a result of the conversation here between the ECOWAS delegation and the Foreign Affairs Committee, that conversation did inform the decision to have a proper meeting with the Speaker on today. So as we speak, the ECOWAS delegation is currently seated in the Speaker's office, and they're having a conversation along with other members of the legislature. So there was no meeting held with the ECOWAS delegation at any time yesterday with any representation from the Speaker's office. That is entirely untrue.
So the delegation, the ECOWAS delegation, we know that they are in the country to mediate in what we all know to be an ongoing crisis for the speaker's position in Liberia. Is Speaker Koon willing to abide by any resolution that will be reached by the ECOWAS delegation or mediation team?
So you see, Anthony, it's good to correct that perception, because that is what it is. It's just a perception. As we speak, there is no crisis at the legislature. Absolutely not. The House of Representatives is one body doing the business for which it was given by the people of Liberia and the Constitution. The House is currently being presided over by one person, who is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and that person is Speaker Richard Koon. Yes, there are lawmakers who have some issues, they have some disagreements. This is politics here. Everybody will not always be in sync with the same ideas. So those lawmakers who may have some basic disagreements and have formed themselves under a caucus called the Rule of Law Caucus have just got some issues. I mean, it does not in any way equate to a crisis. I hear people calling it, there's a crisis. And that is why, personally, I'm asking myself, what is it that the ECOWAS delegation came to mediate? Because for you to come to mediate, it means that there is a crisis. There is no crisis here.
And Mr. Communication Advisor to the Speaker, and you know these are very intelligent men. Like you said, if there were no crisis, you said there's no crisis, why should they come? But I'm saying to you, I don't think they will show up in Liberia with cause to either the ECOWAS Parliament when there is no crisis. Do you care to acknowledge that we have crisis?
Well, I just said that there is no crisis. And maybe I should join you to ask, why would intelligent men leave the headquarters of the ECOWAS Parliament in Nigeria, make their ways to Liberia, to come and attempt to negotiate an issue that does not exist? There is no crisis. There was a crisis or a political crisis. That crisis has long been resolved. We don't have one here. I don't know who's creating the impression that there's a crisis here. We don't have a crisis here. The House is in full swing and doing business. No crisis, please.
The speaker's position of Mr. Koon is big question.
By whom?
Many view his speaker's position as not legitimate. And that is the crisis for which we even have the Supreme Court involvement. Do you still believe and hold the idea that there is no crisis? There is no question of legitimacy to Speaker Koon's speakership?
Mr. C,
Yes.
those who view the speakership of Speaker Koon as illegitimate are doing so out of ignorance. The truth is, and for the sake of the public, those following this interview, I'll just try to roll over the process very briefly. The truth is that the Constitution provides in Article 49 that the House shall have a presiding officer who shall be the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and other officials so elected. And these officials can be removed for a cause by a resolution of a two-thirds majority. That's what the Constitution says. The House's standing
So
rules.
was the tutor obtained and was Speaker Kofa's removed? Was Speaker Kofa removed with the tutor?
I mean, I'll try to answer all your questions in this narrative.
Okay. Go ahead.
Rule 9 of the House's standing rule says that to remove a speaker, or the speaker can be removed for cause by a resolution of two-thirds majority. It says the same for the deputy speaker. All those provisions fall under Rule 9 of the House's standing rules. There are absolutely no other laws anywhere in the Republic that speak to the removal of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, besides the two laws or provisions of laws that I quoted a while ago. Now, to answer your question, did the resolution meet a two-thirds majority? The answer to that question is yes. That resolution exceeded a two-thirds majority. Two-thirds majority by virtue of the number of lawmakers we have at the House of Representatives would mean 49. That resolution carried 50 signatures. The resolution to remove Speaker Kofa carried 50 signatures. So yes, that answers the question about whether they met the two-thirds.
So that's the resolution you talk about. Let's come to the vote.
Yeah. Which vote?
The vote to remove the speaker.
So which law says that they should vote?
The Constitution.
No, that is a complete misrepresentation of the law. No law.
So
Again,
a speaker, for one to become speaker, a vote is not cast. Is that what you're suggesting? By members of the House of Representatives.
Can you repeat your question, sir? I didn't get it.
I said, are you suggesting that for one to be elected speaker, vote by members of that body cannot be cast or are not cast? Do representatives don't vote to elect a speaker?
They do.
Okay.
They do, so, because the law says that. The law says that a speaker is elected once every 6 years by the majority members of the House of Representatives. That's what the law says.
And so I'm asking you.
So that provision calls for election by voting. Yeah, that provision says it clearly. Election by voting.
Okay.
And the requirement is a majority of the members. So it doesn't necessarily meet the two-thirds, simple majority. But to remove, the law does not clearly state that it requires voting. That's the point I'm trying to make to you. And the Constitution does not say beyond a resolution signed by two-thirds members what should happen. Absolutely nothing is mentioned in the Constitution.
So you are saying to remove the speaker, only a resolution is needed.
That
And
is
that
what the law
resolution
says.
should receive two-thirds in order
Yes,
for that to happen.
signatures, yes.
So it's signature and it's not vote.
No.
Okay. And then to
Yeah.
elect the speaker, you need vote. Is that correct?
That is what the Constitution says, sir.
Okay. And you are
But let
saying,
me go further.
tell us,
Let me
tell
go
us.
further. Let's see. Let me go further. So you see, most of our laws are directional and not operational. And there's a classic example where the Constitution only directs what should happen. It says to remove the speaker, you need a resolution of two-thirds majority. Then it stops there. There is a provision in the Constitution that says the lawmakers, the legislature, should make additional laws to operationalize some of these directional laws. Unfortunately, the legislature over time has reneged, I would like to put it that way, but basically they have failed in making those provisions available. So you see, we are at a point where there is a directional law that is not operational. So it leaves the operational aspect of the law to the politics. And that is where you hear people say the Supreme Court or the judiciary should not get involved with the political aspect of the process. Because what the law does not give, it doesn't take. If the law says a resolution full stop,
Mr. Small, I get the clarity
the
you
requirement
bring
is
there.
set for the law. What do you do?
Mr. Small, I
Okay,
get the
get it,
clarity
sir.
you're providing there. My simple question here, you answer the issue of the speaker's removal. You said a resolution of two-thirds is required, and that was gotten. I understand that. Now, for Speaker Koon to be voted as speaker or to be elected as speaker, votes must be cast. Can you tell us how many votes were obtained in his favor to be deemed speaker?
Okay, so let me run you through that process quickly because people tend to forget that these things happen maybe out of their own sentimental reasons. So when the resolution was drawn up and signed by 50 persons, it was taken to plenary. In plenary, the resolution was read, and the lawmakers in plenary did a yea and nay vote on the resolution for its passage because that is normal parliamentary procedure. Parliament will vote on items before it, usually in a yea and nay faction. That was done. When that was done, the deputy speaker, who was the presiding officer, declared the seat of the speaker vacant. When the seat was declared vacant, lawmakers in session proposed an election on the same day. Now, let me tell you what the law says. The law says when the seat of the speaker is declared vacant for X amount of reasons, the legislature should conduct an election within 60 days. Within is the key word, 60 days. So the seat was declared vacant, and on the same day, in session, an election was called. Now Speaker Richard Koon was nominated from the floor, and then there was no opposition to his nomination. No other person was nominated. And so he won on a wet ballot that was cast in session. That is how he became the Speaker of the House
All
of
right,
Representatives.
that answered my question. Thank you. So my next question for us to go to the Supreme Court bit of information. At the time of the resolution's passage, there got to be a presiding officer. The Constitution is clear that the Speaker, in as much as the Speaker is present, he must preside. At that time, Mr. Smo, who was the Speaker of the House of Representatives and who presided that time?
The law says that the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, and other officials so elected shall be presiding officers of the legislature. The Constitution recognizes the Speaker in his presence as the presiding officer. At the time the resolution was drawn up, and at the time it was acted upon, the Speaker was absent from the plenary. So the Deputy Speaker, who is also a recognized presiding officer by the Constitution of Liberia, presided over that process. Let me come to your question about the Speaker was present. You see, presence in plenary is different from being present at the Capitol building. The legislative business is done in plenary. Plenary is the sitting of the legislature. When the Speaker does not go to that sitting, without an excuse, he is deemed absent. When, in this case, the Speaker was not just absent because he did not go to plenary without an excuse, he was absent because the majority of members of the House of Representatives were having a sitting that he declared by himself unconstitutional and decided that he was not going to be a part of. So what he did by default was to not to recognize the legitimacy of Article 33 of the Constitution, which grants the power to do legislative business in a sitting of the majority and not a speaker. So when where the majority sits, that is where business of the legislature is done. The then speaker, in his mind, thought that even though the majority is sitting, but because he is not there, their sitting is illegal. Well, we all know what happened in the end. The Constitution, the Supreme Court in their ruling, let's go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court in their ruling recognized that the people who wrote the law did not envisage that for the House to do business, one person who occupies the position as Speaker will be the determining factor. The people who wrote the law decided that for this House to do this, they should meet the quorum of the number of lawmakers. And once that is done, then the House is in a position to do business. But because they can't be talking across the floor, they will need somebody to preside over them. So in this case, when the Speaker is there, he's the presiding officer. In his absence, there's the Deputy Speaker, and there are other officials of the House that can preside. But presiding over the House is the prerequisite for them to do business. Quorum is that prerequisite. So it's the power of the quorum that led to the decision to act on the resolution and remove the phone.
Thank you. And this remains a kind of debatable issue. Others feel differently about it, have different interpretation concerning what you just explained. But again, let's get to the next issue, which is the Supreme Court on the bit of information. The bit of information filed by Representative Speaker J. Funati Kofa. It is obvious Funati Kofa is seeking clarity on the ruling given by the Supreme Court. Reason being that the Supreme Court ruling is being deemed as ambiguous, that it is not clear I, for one, believe also that the Supreme Court did not do us justice. We are not lawyers, but they interpreted the law and there is no clarity. So Franti believes that the clarity is needed, and when that clarity is provided, there will be no reasons for confusion. The belief also is that when the Supreme Court provides the clarity, that clarity will be a ruling in his favor, but we wait to see that. So, talking about the Supreme Court uh, ruling, what is Speaker Koon understanding? What is Speaker Koon understanding of the ruling of the Supreme Court? And does he believe that that ruling is anything in his favor?
Maybe we need to understand, first of all, what was the Supreme Court's ruling? What did the Supreme Court say? And when we get to know what the Supreme Court said, then we will understand why things are the way they are and why things will stay the way they are going forward. The Honorable Supreme Court said, or before I go to what they said, let's talk about what led them to what they said. So the team of lawyers representing the former speaker filed an in-re petition before the court. That in-re petition carried 6 counts. In that petition, the lawyers prayed the court to declare certain actions carried out by the majority members of the House in session as unconstitutional. Those actions include the decision to reconstitute the committees, their decision to, in fact, their decision to meet, first of all, then their decision to reconstitute committees, those other actions that were carried out in plenary. When that petition was filed before the Supreme Court in its wisdom, having read the petition and listened to the parties, decided that we do not see the need to rule on every count in the petition. But what we've seen is that all these counts seek to get clarity from 2 articles of the Constitution, which are Article 33 and Article 49. So the Supreme Court in its ruling said, first of all, the Supreme Court sought to do was to establish the authority to act on a matter because there were issues raised that the Supreme Court should not get involved in legislative matters. So the first thing the Supreme Court did was to establish their authority that as the final arbiter of justice, the Supreme Court holds the right to listen to any legal issues, whether from code of record, code of non-records, as stated in Article 66 of the Liberian Constitution. So once they established authority on the matter, then the court decided to interpret Article 33 and 49. And this is what the court said. It's important for people to know these things because a lot of people just hear other people say. The court said that Article 30 of the Constitution grants the authority to legislate business in the majority, while Article 49 recognizes that the House should be presided over by a speaker. So, given that these 2 articles speak clearly to the situation at bar, it was the wisdom of the court that any action, this now I'm quoting the court verbatim, any action carried out by a group of lawmakers not in conformity with Articles 33 and 49 of the Constitution are deemed ultra vires. In addition, The court said that the court cannot do for the house what the house ought to do for itself. Now, let me tell you the interpretation of that. But that the court was saying, it goes back to the point I was making about the law being directional and not operational. The court was admitting to the fact that as it is in the law, there are loopholes that subject the law to political maneuverings. And those political aspects cannot be gotten into by the court. The court can get involved with the political aspect. The court can only interpret the constitutional aspect. So the majority claims that they have the backing of Article 33. The former speaker claims he has the backing of Article 49. Those laws or provisions of law that were supposed to be in between there to harmonize those two laws so that we don't have the situation we had are missing. As it is, there is nothing the court can do. So if you listen to the Associate Justice in his side conversation in Nima County recently, he said majority have the quorum, but they do not have the presiding officer who claim to be present. So their action was ultra-virus. The speaker does not have a quorum. He can't do anything. And so whatever he's claiming to do is ultra-virus. So the basic understanding is that, yes, maybe both groups may have had some lapses in their operations in line with the law, but because the proper provisions to effect those laws do not exist, there's little the court can do. So the interpretation as rendered by the Minister of Justice in our situation is what makes sense. And if you ask me, what is Speaker Koon's interpretation of the Supreme Court's ruling? Well, there's nothing that explains his interpretation better than his actions. There's nothing that explains his interpretation better than his actions. The fact that he continues to preside as Speaker of the House of Representatives and does business for the House, I'm sure that explains his interpretation of the court's ruling. And if there's somebody sitting somewhere who thinks that what will happen as a result of the hearing on tomorrow and subsequent ruling will be a complete 360 degrees turnaround from the court's original opinion on this matter, I don't know what that person may be thinking, but that is not possible in line with law. It's not going to happen. The court is not going to
Thank you,
draw
Small.
back its original decision. It's not going to happen.
Thank you, Small. But the very court, at some point in one of his writings or opinions concerning this very case, this very issue, referred to Speaker Koon as purported speaker. Do you care to tell us, when the court said purported speaker, what did the court mean by that? Or what's your understanding when the court said purported speaker?
And it's good you ask that question, because that was one of the misinformation that people were peddling on social media. So you see, for those who are not adept with what things are like in our judicial system, when you file a petition to the court, you file a petition to the court with the title of your case and the what they call respondents. So, for example, my name is Presley Snow, and my lawyers are filing a petition against you and Sonny Sear. My lawyers will say, here comes the petitioners, Presley Snow and Co. versus the respondents. And then the title that I gave you, because the court does not know you. The court doesn't know you. I'm the one who's taking you to the court. So the title I gave you before the court is the title that the court knows for me. So the petition in question that you're referencing was filed on December 3, 2024. That was when the political heat was on here at the Capitol. And at that time, the lawyers representing the former speaker addressed now Speaker Koon as purported speaker and other members and so on and so forth. That petition has been lying before the court since December 3. It was not until March when the court decided to hear that petition. So, as part of writing an invitation to the parties, the court simply used the title given the parties by the complainants to address them. People see that and say it was the court who referred to the speaker as purported speaker. No, that was not the case. I'll just say this. Recently, somebody took the House of Representatives to court. I think there's an Indian national who was accused of beating somebody or manhandling somebody. The person took the House of Representatives to court, and in their petition to the court, addressed the speaker as Speaker Koon and others. When the court decided to invite the House for the hearing, the court addressed Richard Koon as Speaker Richard Koon and other members of the legislature. That was even more recent than when the petition by the Kofa lawyers was filed. So my question is, the fact that the court recently referred to Richard Koon as speaker in another invitation to the court, does that suggest that the court has now reversed its decision from calling him purported to now calling him Speaker Koon? No. The honest truth is, the court does not go looking for cases. When you file a case before the court, the way you address the respondents, that is how the court sends out the invitation.
So small, in other words, if you were to take me to court and say that thief, Anthony Sear, the court will agree with you and say, and refer to me as you refer to me as a thief and say, that thief, Anthony Sear, is that what the court will do? Just because you said so?
It is the responsibility of the court to establish the cause of issues based on the law, right? If I'm suing you to the court for stealing, I can't be passing judgment in the way I address you to the court. So I can call you rogue. I say this rogue or this thief.
But that is the scenario that you painted, that when
so
a complainant goes to the court and refer to the one they're accusing with whatever name, that is how the court going to refer to that person. You cited two instances. One, that the minority black had referred to Speaker Koon as purported when they filed, when they pray for one of what they needed with the court. And so the court used that same reference.
Information.
Yeah.
So the court used that same
I'll ask you a
reference.
simple question. If you were to take me to court and say that thief Anthony Sear, this court will join you and say that thief Anthony Sear. That should be the case if your scenario or the instant you printed or as you said it as a matter of protocol or principle, or that's how the court does it. Is that different now?
So you see, no, it's not different. So you see, Anthony, for those who are listening, this is not a matter of argument or maybe some justification.
No, I'm not arguing. I'm asking questions so that the audience will understand.
Yeah, it is a matter of fact that when you address a party to a case in a petition before the court, when the court decides to cite that party, it uses the title that you handed that party in your petition on the invitation to them. That is how it works at the code.
And the code will not exercise any discretion. So whether you use an unpleasant title or name or description of the person, the code will assign that same description to that person. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
But the code is not going to judge a case before the case is heard. So if it's just a title, that's a title.
All right.
I don't know why the code will do that, but that is what the code does.
All right, thank you. Now, from your, clarification and explanation here, Speaker Koon is the legitimate speaker of the Republic of Liberia. Now,
Absolutely.
let's talk about how Speaker Koon now would be different from his predecessor. Let us talk about that. There have been some allegations against the speaker. Let's get those out of the way, then we'll go to the speaker legislative agenda. Speaker Koon is being accused, and we've been reading in the papers, that he has embarked on the construction of homes. What is any truth to this story that you know of?
Well, again, the speaker is a second-term lawmaker. And immediately towards the end of his first term in 2017, the speaker used to live somewhere in Barnesville called Erwin community. So for some obvious reasons, the speaker moved to another community known as Better Hill community. He built a decent looking home there. I mean, just moderate enough to represent the average Liberian. But towards the end of his first term, some of the constituents went to him and said, "Oh, but you, one ordinary person, you need to build a house that represents you as the lawmaker." Who can you say that the lawmaker was here? So, at the end of his first term, the speaker embarked on refurbishing his home. Right after his re-election, the speaker took a loan from a bank, a local bank. The documents for that loan are available. The speaker took a loan with the sole purpose of upgrading his home. And that was on until this opportunity came and he was privileged to be elected by his colleagues. The speaker has not built a new home since.
So you said the speaker is not building a new home. He's upgrading what has been an existing home, right? An existing home.
And that upgrading was on before he ascended to the speakership. That's the point I want to make.
All right. So to set the record straight, what I'm hearing from you is Speaker Richard Koon is not building new house. He's upgrading his current house. Is that correct?
And in fact, that upgrading was practically completed before he became speaker. So to make it appear like he's upgrading now, make it sound like he because he has ascended to the speakership, he's using money, to make his home appear like a mansion. No, there may be minor upgrades because, of course, as speaker now, it's protocol, security, all of those kinds of things. So maybe he has to add additional things. But the basic upgrading of his home was done before he became Speaker of the House of Representatives.
All right. There are others who feel that Speaker Richard Koon is excessive with power. One instance that has been cited by his critics is when Representative Yeke Koluba parked his vehicle in a spot designated for the speaker. it has been reported and said in many quarters that for Yeke Kolua to be removed from that spot was upon Speaker Richard Koon instruction that Yeke Koluba car should be removed. And Yeke Koluba car was vandalized. Critics of other people feel that the manner in which the speaker handled the situation was terrible. One such person that criticized the speaker decision is the executive director of Center. He said, and I quote, that this would have been handled better, and that the speaker missed an opportunity to show leadership. To my knowledge, Yeke Koluba did similar thing during Speaker Buffer Chimber's speakership. Buffer Chimber, exercised restraint and handled it differently. So it never escalated to the conflict the violence that we saw. Is Speaker Richard a better leader than his predecessor, or did he handle this better, in your judgment?
So again, like I've been trying to put across, I did not get the majority of your question, but I think I understand this question. So let me try to answer it. I hope you get it.
Yeah, go ahead. Folks back with us yet. We have a very rough connection at the end of my guess. It's been holding so far, so bear with us. More than likely, the internet there will get stable, and we will be able to hear from him. We are in conversation with Mr. V. Vesely Smo II. He is the senior communication advisor to Speaker Richard Koon, and we are in this exclusive discussion with him. And we are raising the issue of the recent ECOWAS delegation, the Supreme Court bit of information, the feature of the House of Representatives on Speaker Richard Koon, some allegation, his legislative agenda. Small, I'm sure you can hear me now. We were having some difficulty with your video there, but it's like it's stabilized now. So go ahead. I'm sure you got a portion of my question. The handling of Yeke Koluba parking in Speaker Kofat or SPAT, many people criticizing. I too believe that he could have handled it better and he didn't. Go ahead.
No, but that was not your question. Your question was, is because you said that was a concern that a lot of people share, and then you use the Yeke Koluba issue as a basis.
Yes.
So
go ahead.
Let's put it in the context, because
go ahead.
To attempt to answer the Yeke Koluba scenario will be like using one scenario to define a person. If a person does something one time and is wrong, because that suggests that is the person's character. So let's put it into context here. Is being over excessive with his authority? Well, the answer to that question, just for the sake of answering, is no. But the best people to interpret that answer will be his colleagues, the people he interacts with every day. Secondly, his constituents, those very people who voted him, that see him every day. Those are the people who could be best to answer the question. But with the representative Koluba situation,
do you think those are the only people he represents?
Well, I'm not saying the people in District 11. I'm saying the people he interact with every day. We have an office here where we receive maybe about, on average, maybe about 50 to 75 persons daily. I'm not talking about the days that that is actually set to meet people. On Wednesdays, that is actually set to meet people. We receive up to.
In other words, you are saying he only is answerable to the representatives he represents as speaker and the constituent that he represents in his district. And other than those people, he's not answerable to any other person.
Anthony, I thought you were listening to me.
Go ahead, I'm listening. I'm just making a follow-up, Mr.
So you
Small.
don't appear
Go
to be
ahead.
listening. You're probably waiting to talk. There's a difference between listening and waiting to talk. So maybe you're waiting to ask the question rather than listening to me, because I just said that besides his colleagues and the people in District 11, there are a wide range of people that will meet all the time that come to the office. The speaker is the third highest office in the land. So obviously he goes beyond just representing District 11 in Montserrat County. That's besides the point. The point is that the speaker is a very modest person. In fact, is he excessive with his authority? I think the authority is excessive on him. That would be my answer. I think the authority is weighing on his personality because he wants to be simple, he wants to be common, he wants to interact with people at the lowest level. And because he's in this position, I think it is taking its toll on his person. The situation with Representative Koluba is a one-off. And could it have been handled appropriately or more appropriately? In fact, let me say it clearly. Was it handled appropriately? In my opinion, yes. Could it have been handled more appropriately? Yes. So, why do I say it was handled appropriately? I don't hear anybody questioning Representative Koluba for blatantly violating law. Or has the society accepted that Representative Koluba will disobey the law? But they are prepared to jump on whoever tries to stop him in his tracks. Disobey the law. I don't get it.
Mr. Small, I don't think that is the case.
The issue. No, the case here is
the case.
that.
Let me come in. I'll give you time.
No, Anthony.
I'll give you time.
Anthony,
I'll give you time, Small. I'll give you time. You trying to understand my question that no one is holding Yeka Koluba accountable. Even the center director that I quoted, he said it's a matter of protocol that there is a designated parking spot for the speaker. And Yeka Koluba going to park there was wrong because that is not a assigned parking spot. He acknowledged that. So he said Yeka Koluba was out of line. He breached protocol and he was wrong. And then he went further by stating the way the speaker handled that was wrong. You are saying that the speaker handled it appropriately, but he could have handled it more appropriately. So I ask you the question, what stopped the speaker from handling it more appropriately?
Well, I'm not sure we are attempting to see excellence as an enemy of good. The fact that I did not make excellent does not mean that I should disregard the fact that I did good. So, as a matter of excellence, maybe the speaker was supposed to have called maybe the chair of rules and order or the administrators of the building to use their authority at their level to remove the vehicle. But let's not forget that the chief overall administrator of this building is the speaker. And so if the speaker saw a vehicle parked in his space, willfully done, and the speaker needed to have his vehicle parked, the speaker used, well, within the scope of his authority as the chief administrator of this institution called the legislature, to remove that vehicle. That was a good move. Was that an excellent move? No. But are we going to treat good as an enemy of excellence? Absolutely not. So
you
we
said
acknowledge
that what the speaker
and
did.
say that it could have been done excellently. And the excellent move would have been that maybe you call the chairman Bruce and order and say, please figure out how to get this vehicle out of a parking space and all of that. Maybe, I'm just saying maybe, because in my mind, the speaker's action is absolutely justifiable.
Thank you. You said you qualified the speaker's way of handling it as good. Tell me what was good about what he did.
Well, he put a halt to an action that was clearly in defiance to law. I'm sure any citizen who does that will consider that a good action. When a citizen decides to halt somebody who is blatantly violating the law within their own powers, that citizen has done a good action, regardless of whether the person is a speaker or not.
So what a speaker did, somebody might classify it as enforcing the law. Is the speaker an enforcer of the law?
So let me ask you this question, Anthony, to answer your question. If somebody went to your house and attempted to beat on your child, and you went there and removed the person from interaction, maybe threw a few punches in the person's face as well to remove them from beating your child, and the person went home, should we say you are supposed to call the police because you're not a law enforcer? Should we say that you were wrong?
What's wrong with calling the police?
Oh, okay, while the person is throwing punches and inflicting wounds on your child, you should leave them there and go and call the police. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. That's an option I
But
would
that's
take.
what we should do. Oh,
Yeah, that's what I would
so
do.
that option is an excellent option. But a good option would be to go there, prevent the person from inflicting further wounds on your child, and in the process, if you're capable of even throwing some punches or slaps in their face, you do that so that the person stops. And then you will get the police involved later. That would be a good option. So again, like I said, let's not treat good as an enemy of excellence.
Okay. Now, let's come to the speaker legislative agenda. It is obvious the speaker and those who support him see him as a legitimate speaker. What is the speaker legislative agenda going forward? How does he intend to solve all the problems the House of Representatives has? Does he have a plan to do that?
Well, the Speaker of the House of Representatives did not ascend to the speakership by accident. Let's not forget that he contested for the speakership at the start of the 55th legislature. So it means that he already had an idea about what he intended to do, or what he intends to do as Speaker of the House. So when the opportunity was afforded him in November of last year, it was just a matter of reigniting or revisiting that plan. So let me just tell you a few things about this plan. The first thing is that the Speaker, as an accountant by profession, believes that the House should be a transparent and accountable place. As the first branch of government, the branch of government responsible to, amongst other things, but most importantly, handle the purse, the national purse. This branch of government has to be accountable and transparent and open. So the Speaker's first idea about transforming the legislature is to make it transparent and accountable. That is why the Speaker has embarked. Sorry, is that coming from?
No, you are clear. Go ahead.
Okay. And that is why the Speaker has embarked on engaging some of his colleagues in the region. You see, when the Speaker makes trips outside of Liberia, people find their own definitions for his actions. So the Speaker has gone to Morocco twice. And as part of strengthening ties with the Moroccan parliament, is to see how the Moroccan Parliament can help the Liberian Parliament with its reform efforts aimed at enhancing transparency and accountability. The last time there were issues at the Capitol, people burned down the Capitol or a segment of the Capitol building. The other time, lawmakers came and found some strange items in their offices. And nobody can account for them because this building, this facility, voting high on the agenda of the speaker. We want to ensure that this facility, this public facility, is properly manned by artificial intelligence. In addition to that, we want to ensure that the setting of the House of Representatives, if you follow their recent sitting, they're taking microphones here and there. That's back in the days. Look, the speaker wants to ensure that there's a member to a microphone. That's the beginning of the project, a member to a microphone. And in addition to that, lawmakers are on record. So maybe if you're not aware of vote yes or no, the particular item on the agenda. So that, the place looks muddy. I mean, are we so antiquated? We're not enemies of modernity? Why are we treating ourselves like that? So that is high on the speaker's agenda. Besides that, take a very good look at the Liberian legislature. Today, and so then you can sit to where you are, and maybe by the click of a button, know the lawmaker of a particular district, what is their name, what committees they are on, all those things should be done. Those things too difficult to do. So that is another item on the chief's agenda. He wants to ensure that the legislature has a functioning website. I can say this clearly, that website has been built. It is to be launched very shortly. So the legislature will very soon have a functioning website where about the information of all lawmakers and those working at the legislature will be. And you can just set home and access those information. In addition to that, laws that have been made, bills that have been proffered, will all be uploaded to the website so that the legislature becomes a more transparent, organized, and respected place. That is key on the speaker's legislative agenda. But that is just about the legislature. We're talking about issues that go beyond the confines of these premises. Yeah, just the other day, the speaker was at the JFK. The speaker, as we speak, is building an incinerator at the JFK from his personal budget because the speaker believes that healthcare should be at the very top of the country's agenda. The speaker pledged that along with his colleagues, they will see how they can put in the new budget in 2026 anywhere around $20 million that will go directly to the JFK for its logistical and logistical and equipment upliftment. That is the kind of thing that the speaker has. Now, the speaker is not a member of the executive, but it's for the legislature and for the. So those are just basic things.
Thank you. I like what I'm hearing, that the House of Representatives, and I hope it includes the entire legislature, we have a website, but if the speaker can do so for the House of Representatives, that would be okay. I have one person who been feeling so ashamed of that body that it does not have a functional website for years. And you are aware the allotment that this legislative body has been receiving over the years. I will start an organization, and in a week or two, it has a website. And to see a national body representing the people has had no functional website for all this long, it has been a shameful thing. If the speaker can accomplish that, that would be a good thing. Another thing I see is that when I was in Liberia recently, I saw people using cutlasses, cutting grass in the yard of the Capitol building. That was another thing that actually troubled me. But I was so troubled by that, to see people, stay using cutlasses in their hand and cutting grass in the yard of the Capitol building. But then these people are driving cars and they can't even buy a lawnmower that can cut the grass in the shortest possible time and keep that consistent. Well, folks, our guest dropped off. I don't know what may be responsible for that. One can think maybe internet drop off. One may think something else. I don't know. I really don't know. But again, that is all the time we have. Mr. Small, we want to say thank you so very much for making time and answering our questions. I was just about to ask you to convey our invitation to the speaker to grant us the opportunity to have an interview with him, to talk to him himself, to hear about his legislative agenda and how he will, be a different speaker, in our country. I also want to talk to the speaker about allotment. The appropriation of the budget is something that I really see to be a big problem. How will the speaker, play his role or bring leadership to this in a more transformative way so that Liberians can benefit more than the House of Representatives benefiting? I really want to see that. I also want to talk to the speaker about his budget. Is it not too much given the country and the things that we have to do in our country? I can only hope that we can have the opportunity to talk to the speaker. There's so much good the House of Representatives can do, the legislature, as a whole can do. And it will be okay to talk to the speaker and to see where his mind is in moving Liberia forward in a more progressive way. On that note, folks, we will come to the end of this broadcast. We want to say a very big thanks to Mr. Small, who is the Senior Communication Advisor to Speaker Richard Koon, for granting us the opportunity to have a little over an hour conversation with him concerning all the issues that we had to raise with the office of the Speaker. The song that is taking us home now says, "We are all Liberians." Thank you for watching. And those who will watch later, as you watch, there might be at some point during the interview where the video will be a little rough. As you watch the video, be patient. It was because of the internet connectivity at some point was poor. But I think that has been an informative discussion with Mr. Small so far. Enjoy the song, "We Are All Liberians," and bye-bye.
We are Liberians.